Hey there, my dear night owl. Or should I say, steep dreamer. If you've clicked on this video, chances are one of two things is true. You're either really into matcha, or you really can't sleep. Either way, welcome. You found your cozy corner of the internet. But before we go any further, and before you drift off entirely, do me a little favor. Give that thumbs up button a gentle tap, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell so YouTube can softly whisper, "Hey, a new bedtime story just dropped." Okay, now we can take a breath together. Dim the lights, unless you're one of those rebel night owls who insists on top brightness. No judgment, but your retinas deserve better. Light a candle if you have one, or a stick of incense, or hug your cat. Whatever helps set the vibe. If you're watching on your phone, try turning the screen brightness down. If you're listening with earbuds in, take a deep breath in and out. Maybe even close your eyes. This is your time, your space, your moment to unwind. All right. Deep breath. Let the stress of the day melt away, like hot water over matcha. Tonight, we're going on a journey through dynasties and dusty scrolls, through legends and leaf-picking, through poetry, philosophy, and, yes, a fair amount of tea. Our story is about matcha, but not just the stuff in your latte. No. We're talking about a 1,200-year-old ritual, born in temples, sipped by warriors, painted into poetry, and now, quite possibly, in your favorite boba drink. It's a story of simplicity, of slowness, of stillness, and a splash of mystery. So pull up your blanket, sip your tea if you've got one nearby, and get ready to hear how a humble green powder became a symbol of Zen, a tool for meditation, a drink for emperors, and a global sensation. Also, quick roll call. You still with me? If you're already snoring, congrats, the video's doing its job. If not, good, because it's about to get steeped. See what I did there? Part 1. A leaf from ancient roots. The beginning in China. Let's set our leaves down in China, way back, like before your blanket was even woven back. We're talking Tang Dynasty, 8th century, a time of poets, scrolls, and serious tea vibes. Tea, or cha, was already beloved, but it didn't come in cute little sachets or cardboard tubes. No, tea came in bricks, literal compressed bricks that looked like greenish chocolate bars. These bricks were multi-purpose. You could shave off bits and steep them in water. You could trade them, carry them across provinces, or, in a pinch, nibble on them. They were the Bitcoin of beverages. Now, during this time, there was a cultural shift. People started experimenting with grinding the tea into fine powder and whisking it into hot water. And voila, the early ancestor of matcha. This powdered tea was praised for its rich flavor and ability to help Buddhist monks stay awake during long meditations. It had just the right combo of caffeine and clarity. Monks would sit cross-legged for hours, minds still, thanks to a bowl of frothy green focus. One such monk, named Lu Yu, wrote the iconic classic of tea, Cha Jing. This was like the original tea Bible. In it, he described everything from growing to harvesting to preparing tea with reverence. Think of it as part manual, part poem, part humble brag. Here's a fun tidbit. In Lu Yu's time, tea wasn't just a beverage, it was medicine, spiritual companion, and creative muse all rolled into one. Scholars wrote verses about tea. Artists painted steaming bowls. Farmers treated it like treasure. Imagine a quiet room lit by oil lamp, the smell of incense in the air, and the soft shh, shh, shh of bamboo whisks swirling powdered tea. Sound familiar? That's the origin of your favorite matcha latte, friend. Eventually, this powdered tea made its way to the Song dynasty, where it was elevated to high art. Court competitions were held to see who could produce the finest foam. No joke. There were literally matcha whisking tournaments. Yes, before esports, there was tea sports. So, by the time we get to the 1100s, powdered tea is a full-on cultural phenomenon in China. Which brings us to a curious, bright-eyed monk named Aisai. Part 2. The monk who brought matcha to Japan. Our next chapter brings us to a determined and curious monk, Aisai. Picture this. It's the late 1100s in Japan. The world is shifting, and spiritual seekers are journeying far and wide in search of wisdom. Aisai, a scholar and devout Buddhist, decides it's time to pack his bags and sail to China to deepen his studies in Chan Buddhism. Now, Aisai wasn't just your average monk. He had a sharp mind, a restless spirit, and a very good sense of timing. In China, he not only absorbed the teachings of Chan, which would evolve into Zen Buddhism back in Japan, but he also discovered something that would change his country forever: powdered tea. He saw how Chinese monks prepared it before long meditations. The frothy drink sharpened focus, soothed the body, and became a kind of sacred fuel for the spirit. Aisai was intrigued, not just by the tea itself, but by the entire ritual surrounding it. He didn't just take mental notes, he packed seeds. Literally, tea seeds, along with knowledge, a whisk, a bowl, and a vision. When he returned to Japan in 1191, he planted those tea seeds at the base of Mount Sefuri. The land was fertile, and the leaves took root. This would become one of Japan's earliest matcha gardens. But Aisai wasn't content with just sipping in silence. He was a bit of a matcha evangelist. He wrote the famous book Kisa-yoyoki, Drinking Tea for Health. In it, he praised tea for sharpening the mind, strengthening the body, and even curing what he delicately described as stuffy feelings in the chest. We'll assume that's ancient monk speak for anxiety. He wrote, "Tea is the elixir of the soul. It banishes tiredness, and it keeps the 5 vital organs in harmony." Look, when a monk tells you it cures your organs, you steep it. Aisai didn't just recommend matcha to monks. He offered it to warriors, samurai, shoguns, even the sick. His approach was revolutionary. He saw matcha as medicine, meditation, and magic all in one bowl. There's a popular story of Aisai presenting matcha to a shogun who suffered from hangovers and fatigue. Yes, even noble warriors got a little too festive sometimes. Aisai's tea reportedly cured him, earning matcha a reputation as both a performance enhancer and hangover antidote. Gatorade, eat your heart out. It's important to note that Aisai's timing was impeccable. Japan was entering a period of great change. The Kamakura period had begun, and with it came a shift from aristocratic dominance to military rule. But even in this era of swords and strategy, there was still room for something soft, slow, and sacred: tea. And so, the seeds, both literal and metaphorical, were planted. The monks began to embrace it as part of meditation. The samurai began drinking it before battles. And slowly, from temples to tea gardens, matcha started to weave itself into the fabric of Japanese life. You still awake back there? Or did I lose you somewhere around stuffy feelings in the chest? If you're out cold, I hope you're dreaming of monks whisking tea on mountaintops. If not, great, because things are about to get beautifully ritualistic. Part 3. Zen, Ceremony, and Stillness. So now we've got monks in the mountains sipping matcha, samurai clearing their heads with a green swirl of calm, and Japan falling slowly, lovingly, under matcha's spell. But here's where it gets really beautiful. Matcha wasn't just a drink anymore. It became a practice, a way of life, a quiet art form. Enter the tea ceremony, or chano-yu, literally hot water for tea, but that translation doesn't even scratch the surface. Chano-yu is a blend of ritual, hospitality, philosophy, and mindfulness. Every whisk, every bow, every soft shuffle of feet on tatami mats has a meaning. And no one perfected it more than Sen no Rikyu. Ah, Rikyu. If matcha had a spirit guide, it'd be this guy. Born in the 16th century, Rikyu studied under some of the most prominent tea masters of his time, and then took everything he learned and stripped it down to its essence. No gold-trimmed bowls, no flashy gestures, just stillness, simplicity, silence. His aesthetic was called wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection and transience. A chipped tea bowl? Beautiful. A plain straw hut for tea gatherings? Perfect. He even designed tea rooms so small guests had to enter by crouching. The idea was to leave one's ego at the door. Samurai would literally bow and crawl in, swords left outside. Inside the tea room, everyone was equal. Imagine this. You enter a humble tea hut in a moss-covered garden. You hear only the rustle of the wind and the soft clicking of bamboo in a water basin. A bowl is passed to you with two hands. You bow, you turn the bowl, you drink. That's it. But that's everything. And here's a little story for you. One day, Rikyu was preparing for an important tea ceremony. His garden was pristine, every leaf in place. But before the guests arrived, he shook a cherry tree, letting a few petals fall to the ground. He believed nature's randomness was more beautiful than perfection. That's wabi-sabi. Matcha was now a ritual of presence. Preparing it required patience. Whisking it became a rhythm. Drinking it was a moment of connection. To self, to others, to the now. Even the tools had significance. The chawan, tea bowl, chaisen, bamboo whisk, chashaku, bamboo scoop, and natsume, tea caddy, were all chosen with care. Some were handmade, others passed down for generations. Another tells of a tea master whose bowl was so beloved, guests were afraid to touch it. One day, it cracked. He repaired it with gold, creating the first known example of kintsugi, the art of mending broken pottery with gold lacquer. That bowl? More valuable than ever. Broken things, beautifully repaired. And while all of this may sound very calm and zen, Rikyu's life ended dramatically. Let's just say politics and tea don't always mix. Ordered to commit ritual suicide by the powerful warlord Toyotomi Hideyoshi, Rikyu prepared one final tea ceremony, calm, dignified, and poetic. His final act? A bow and a poem. Welcome to my death. With tea in hand, I part. Yeah, matcha's got layers. So, if you're still awake, first, I'm impressed. Second, imagine yourself in that hut. The scent of matcha in the air. The warmth of the bowl in your hands. Now, breathe in. Breathe out. Part 4. Matcha's cultural influence. Now that we've steeped ourselves in the slow serenity of chano-yu, let's zoom out a bit. from the hush of tatami rooms to the broader strokes of Japanese culture, because matcha didn't stay tucked away in temples forever. No, this humble green powder began to spill gracefully, of course, into art, literature, philosophy, and daily life. Let's start with the 5 traditional arts of the tea master: tea, flower arranging, ikebana, calligraphy, incense appreciation, and gardening. These weren't just hobbies, they were training for the senses, ways of cultivating awareness and presence. And matcha was the common thread through it all. A tea master wasn't just someone who could whisk like a pro. No, they needed to arrange flowers to reflect the season, trim the garden path to slow the guest's pace, and write poetry on a scroll that would hang quietly in the tea room. Hosting a tea ceremony was basically like staging a tiny, perfect play where matcha was the star and the entire room was the stage. Matcha bowls became collector's items. Some lords, known as daimyo, would host lavish chaji, full-length tea gatherings lasting up to 4 hours. Yes, 4 hours for tea. These events were part ritual, part flex. Imagine a modern dinner party where instead of showing off your new espresso machine, you pull out a 400-year-old handcrafted bowl and say, "This was passed down by 3 generations of samurai." Bonus points if it's got a gold repair line. And now, the ghost stories. Oh yes, matcha has its share of supernatural tales. One famous story tells of an old Kyoto temple where a spirit, known as the Whispering Guest, would appear only when the host whisked matcha with perfect rhythm. It was said she had died during a ceremony she never finished. The monks believed if they could complete the ritual flawlessly, her spirit would finally find rest. Another tale, darker but oddly charming, speaks of a cursed matcha scoop carved from the wood of a sacred tree. Every tea master who used it claimed they could hear voices murmuring in the steam. Still with me? Or are the whispers getting to you? If your eyelids are getting heavy, don't worry. Even the ghosts in this story are polite. Matcha poems also became popular. One haiku reads, "In silent morning, whisk and breath share the same beat. Tea becomes the self." Pretty deep for 17 syllables. During the Edo period, 1603 to 1868, matcha's role shifted again. It became more accessible, not just for nobles and monks, but for merchants, scholars, and everyday folks. Tea houses popped up in city neighborhoods, each with its own character. Some were quiet and meditative, others were more like intellectual salons. You'd come for the tea and stay for the political gossip. Matcha became communal, a shared experience, and in many ways, that's what it still is today. From samurai sipping before battle to shopkeepers catching up over bowls, matcha always carried more than flavor. It carried connection, presence, a reason to pause. Speaking of pause, are you still here, or did I lose you in a haunted tea house? Either way, the next part of our journey brings us back to the present. Don't worry, we'll bring the spirit of the past with us. Just maybe leave the whispering scoop behind. Part 5. Modern Matcha. The fog lifts, the shoji doors creak open, and we emerge from centuries of tea huts and temples into the buzz of the 20th and 21st centuries. A new world, but one that's still very much enchanted by green powder. Let's begin in the late 1800s. The Meiji Restoration is in full swing. Japan is modernizing rapidly, embracing Western ideas, trains, telegraphs, and yes, coffee. Suddenly, matcha finds itself out of the spotlight. Enter loose-leaf teas like sencha, which are easier to brew and appeal to the fast-paced world of industrialization. The tea ceremony is still respected, but no longer at the heart of everyday life. But matcha? It bides its time, patient, like a monk in meditation. Fast forward to the post-World War II era. Japan is rebuilding, redefining. Western food, drinks, and pop culture surge into the country. Instant coffee is all the rage. Matcha, meanwhile, stays mostly ceremonial. Still revered in tea schools, still served in traditional settings, but not the drink of the masses. Then, the 21st century arrives. And suddenly, out of nowhere, matcha stages a comeback that even a samurai would call impressive. Part of this is due to the growing interest in wellness and superfoods around the world. Green tea, with its antioxidants and calming properties, is in demand. And matcha? It's not just green tea, it's green tea in beast mode. 1 cup of matcha contains the nutrients of an entire leaf, because you're not just steeping the leaf, you're drinking the entire thing. Health bloggers are losing their minds, fitness gurus are whisking before yoga, celebrities are drinking it out of coconut bowls on Instagram. You can now find matcha in lattes, hot and iced, in cookies, cakes, and croissants, in protein shakes and smoothies, in skincare, shampoos, and face masks, in cafes from Brooklyn to Berlin to Bangkok. Matcha is modern. Matcha is mobile. Matcha is everywhere. But something magical happens here. Even though it's gone mainstream, the soul of matcha remains intact. People begin learning about the whisk, the bowl, the ceremonial roots. Suddenly, you're seeing tutorials on how to prepare traditional matcha at home. You're seeing quiet 15-second TikToks with soft, lo-fi music and matcha foam art. We've come full circle. The world is speeding up, and matcha says, slow down. Part 6. The Science and Spirit of Matcha, 1:40:01 to 2:00:00. All right, sleepy scholar, you've made it through the temples, tea huts, haunted utensils, daimyo tea parties, and TikTok latte wars. Now let's get nerdy, in the most peaceful way possible. So what is matcha, really? What's going on inside that vibrant green powder that makes it so special? Let's start with how it's grown. Matcha is made from shade-grown tea leaves, typically from the plant Camellia sinensis. About 3 to 4 weeks before harvest, the tea plants are covered with special nets or bamboo mats to block out direct sunlight. Why do this? Because reducing sunlight slows the growth and causes the leaves to produce more chlorophyll, amino acids, and a special compound called L-theanine. L-theanine, matcha's secret ingredient. It's an amino acid that promotes relaxation without drowsiness. Combined with the moderate caffeine in matcha, it creates what some call a calm alertness. It's the reason monks could sit in meditation for hours without dozing off. And the reason modern humans can sit in traffic without screaming, sometimes. Matcha also contains antioxidants like catechins, especially EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, linked to cellular repair and longevity. Vitamins C, A, and E, potassium, magnesium, and fiber. And because you're consuming the entire leaf, not just steeped water, you get more of everything. There's even a little folklore around the energy of matcha. Some believed that because the leaves were shaded, absorbing the mystery of moonlight rather than sunlight, the tea contained a yin-like introspective energy, more inward, more meditative. You know how some teas feel chatty and light? Matcha feels like it wants to hand you a blanket. There's a term in Japanese called ichigo ichie. 1 moment, 1 meeting. It's a philosophy often associated with the tea ceremony. The idea is, no 2 moments are the same. Even if you're doing the same ritual, drinking the same tea, each time is unique. Matcha, in its humble bowl, reminds us to be present. There's a story about a master tea farmer who would speak to his plants each morning before sunrise. He'd walk barefoot among the rows, whispering thanks to the leaves and asking them to grow peacefully. Whether or not it improved the flavor, we'll never know. But his tea was legendary. Another tale speaks of a samurai who couldn't calm his nerves before a duel. A monk gave him matcha and instructed him to whisk it with the same care he would give his sword. The samurai survived the duel and gave up fighting entirely to become a tea master. True? Who knows? But delightful? Absolutely. And here's something else beautiful. Every bowl of matcha you've ever had was the result of hand-picked, carefully ground leaves, processed by real human hands. It's a slow craft, and that slowness is kind of the point. In a world built for speed, matcha is built for pause. So next time you sip a cup, whether from a rustic handmade bowl or a neon-to-go cup with oat milk, take a second to breathe, taste the chlorophyll, thank the farmers, remember the monks, and maybe whisper a secret to your tea, because even in this modern, busy world, matcha still listens. And so, dear listener, you've whisked your way through dynasties, temples, duels, poetry, powdered leaves, Instagram cafes, amino acids, and probably a few yawns. Maybe you're half asleep right now, earbuds in, dreaming of bamboo forests and little wooden scoops. Or maybe you're still here, wide-eyed, lying in bed like, wait, the samurai did what with the whisk? Either way, thank you for being here. Whether you drifted off halfway through or stayed until the final froth, you gave your mind something soft to hold. And isn't that a gift? Matcha has traveled across continents and centuries, just to be with you tonight. In spirit, in story, and maybe even in your mug. So next time you sip something warm and green, remember, it's not just tea. It's a time machine, a lullaby, a lesson wrapped in steam. If you enjoyed this journey, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and turn on notifications. We've got plenty more tales, sleepy and scholarly, coming your way. Because here at the 3 a.m. Scholar, we believe wisdom doesn't sleep. But you should. So until next time, dear dreamer, may your nights be peaceful, your whisk always gentle, and your dreams forever matcha-made. Good night.